Well, folks, when we talk about this episode of Galactic Tales, I am just as shocked as you are that this is the film we're doing. I did not have the time to watch a feature-length film, but I figured I gotta do another video on these because they're fun. Let's go back to the year 1902, 120 years ago. Think about that, 120 years ago, and talk about George Méliès' film, A Trip to the Moon. I don't know how to talk about this film really because it's not a film. It's a short feature that's 14 minutes long, and it probably has inspired more content and stories than half of the stuff we've talked about on this list. It's a science fiction feature. It is so important to the history of cinema. Just the way he made these backgrounds and these dissolves, it's unique to itself in a way we have literally never seen before. And that's impressive. I will talk about Méliès a little bit here. Imagine you are like an old man. I say old man. Imagine you're like in your 30s and 40s and you see like this new technology. Here's this train that's on like nothing and it's like coming towards you. Like, what the hell is that? I like that. I want to play with that. But you don't want to like document real life. You want to be like, you can use this to make magic because this guy's an illusionist. So he's going to take this technology. We're capturing a moving train. And he's going to be like, watch me make some cool illusions out of this. And then he just creates like a bunch of short films. Literally like hundreds of these short films just in this idea of like, hey, look at the stuff we can do. I understand how to use this technology. I'm going to dissolve certain things. I'm going to make backgrounds move. We're going to make this really interesting art piece and use it using my love of illusion. And I'm like, this is impressive. Even at the time, there's so much stuff about what he does on film and with this idea of film that we emulate today. We probably don't have half of the modern ideas of stories or illusions or tricks on film without this man being like, I can take this technology and make it special. And that's what he did. Just so impressive to see. And A Trip to the Moon, probably his most iconic film that he worked on. There's not much I can say about it. Like, it has been restored and recolored and remastered 1,000 times over. It's still going to look a certain way. It's unique, and I think that's very impressive. Like, there's just something about capturing science fiction that I adore. And when you're doing that so early on and making it unique into itself then, it's really impressive, and it's doing something very spectacular. So I'll go over what kind of happens in the film. It's 14 minutes long, for those of you who haven't seen it. I'm sure you can find an actual full-length clip of it on YouTube or something. Basically, a bunch of these old Willy Wonka-looking dudes are talking about going to the moon. Remember, this is before, like, the space race. So we didn't know how to get there. We didn't really know, like, what's going on in space. So these guys are like, we can get there through a big cannon. So they build this device. They're going to shoot themselves into a cannon. They land on the moon. And they get there and they just sleep outside and they go down into the crevices of the moon. They're attacked by aliens and these aliens are weird. And then they come back to Earth because they just tip off the moon and they get attacked by an alien on Earth. And then they kill the alien and then they make a monument to their craziness. That's all it is. But just imagine though, everything you love about film today comes from this. The idea of aliens on film. The idea of science fiction, the idea of like a larger than life universe, just literally the idea of using these painted backdrops, of dissolving into a different scene, of using music to cue up this big angelic theme. It all stems from this little film, and it's so cool to see that. The most iconic shot, probably, I would say, well, I'm not going to say of all time because it's probably not, but I want to say to anybody who is a film historian, one of the most iconic shots is the rocket crashing into the eye of the moon because it's awesome. What a great effect, the way it just slowly just pops on his head and there's blood dripping down. I'm like, that is cool. That is beautiful. And you look at this today, it's really impressive that you could make that back then because there's so much of these beautiful backdrops that are moving and static. And that probably comes back to like the illusionist thing where you're seeing like these moving ideas that you could do on a stage, but now you have technology to capture that in front of you. It's very cool and very interesting to see. I mean, from today's standpoint, seeing these like really big, ridiculous Dumbledore looking costumes is awkward and dumb. But I don't hate it. I'm fine with it. A bunch of old dudes just jumping into a rocket and going to the moon. Sure. The aliens, I can't pinpoint it. I get Rodian vibes. I get Rodian vibes. I get Land of the Lost vibes. It's interesting. I just think there's so much about this film that is important and impactful. And, I know not everyone's going to want to watch it. I get that completely because it's not tedious. It's only 14 minutes, but you have to understand what this really did to appreciate it. This guy was a genius. This guy probably grandfathered the modern idea of film and showed what you can do with it by having these people dress up as the moon and as planets and as stars and just make this really weird piece where we're dissolving two pieces over each other. Does it look great? No, but if you've never seen anything like that before, you're like, wow, this is a giant star human, and in front of them is the small person looking up like, this is wondrous. You're just like, that's impressive. That is so brilliant. It's really cool. And I think there's so much to admire about what Méliès did here, because it's just so unique and creative and doing some great stuff and telling a great story that really holds up. It really holds up. Is it kind of silly when the rocket crashes down into the water and there's fish the size of fish and the rocket's supposed to represent the human? And you're like, yeah, it's silly. But could you imagine being 120 years ago, having no idea what the moon actually looks like or what it's going to be, and you see this film and there's an alien and they bring the alien down to them and they capture it? That's insane. And that is really impressive. And everything about this film sparks genius. And Méliès was great. And I mean, we could go further into him. I don't know if I need to. That could be a video in on itself. The guy is a forefather of what makes cinema great. The guy created so many great stuff. He made over 500 films, I do believe. I watched this on TCM, and they had a documentary about his work afterwards. They all thought it was lost in time because he burned it to protect his image. They restored a bunch of it. It's just really cool. And if you haven't seen this short film, just watch it, because every technology and every technique we use today in film comes from his stories and his vision. He's just a kooky guy that made illusions and said, I like this new piece of technology. What if I took that and reimagined Hollywood and made an industry and did something so creative and original? That's impressive. That is something you would never expect to see. And it's amazing that a film that is 120 years old, is actually still poignant and fun and creative. And it's telling a concise story that you understand. I will say this, it is literally hours shorter than Metropolis, but it is way more interesting and a way cooler concept. So please do yourself a favor, research the history of film and Georges Méliès, and watch A Trip to the Moon, because it is special and fun and makes for some great stuff. And that is going to do it for this episode of Galactic Tales. Now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And as always, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.